Want to jump right in and start because we want you to leave with tons and tons of new ideas about how to make this DEC conference and any virtual teaching that you do even more inclusive and more effective. And so I'm Julie Costin, and you all know Christy, I assume. So Christy, you were the past president of DEC, is that right?
Yeah, I was one of decades long list of folks, but yeah, I think most people probably know me, but we'll introduce ourselves a little bit more too.
Yeah. So we wanted to make sure that everybody understood even why we were here today. So Christy, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so like everything else, we're to survive and to thrive and to make the difference that we're called to do in this world. We're doing things virtually. And so we wanted to, in talking with Peggy and the executive office, we said, well, maybe there's a way that we could support those that are presenting this year. Even those of us, like Corey and Emily, who've been doing this forever. Not that we're old, but we've been doing things virtually for a long time. But how could we really up our game and make sure that we continue to bridge that ever persistent research to practice gap? How can we really get folks to engage when everybody's a little bit zoomed out? How can we really innovate in ways that are inspiring? And then just really model best practices around teaching adults and getting to a change in practice. So we thought, well, let's gather together with all these amazing presenters and see if Julie and I couldn't, and you, share what we know about doing things inclusively and engagingly. Is that a word? Maybe.
Yeah, today it is. While we're introducing ourselves, just so that you know a little bit about our background, go ahead and put in the chat, what's one reason you came today? What's one thing you're hoping for? Just to also practice the chat and get used to, we really love it if people engage with us during our presentations. It's not rude to type while we're talking. We actually love it. So Christy, do you want to introduce yourself and share your background?
So in case anyone, if we haven't met before, I'm Christy, and I know many of you from my past life as a professor at Kent State University for 16 years. I was also an early interventionist in the great state of Oregon. So if you have any ducks in the house or beavers, you can say hey in the chat. And since 2013, if you can believe it, I've been what we call a social entrepreneur or someone without insurance in retirement. Either way you want to call it, it's the same thing. And so I've been on this mission to really transform how we do professional development in early care and education. And as Julie mentioned, I was a past president of DEC and also a past president of the subdivision here in Ohio. And we've got some Buckeyes in the house today too. Julie, yeah. And then, so Julie, you'll see this in a minute. We have a lot of similarities and we love to co-teach. One of our similarities, we both have a pandemic puppy. This is my pandemic puppy. This is Wizzy. And then Julie and I have been working together for several years. And then when the pandemic hit, we've been like attached. I think we're like common law wives at this point because we spend so much time together. And for the first time, I got to meet Julie in person a couple weeks ago. Mike and I went to New York and I got to meet her in person. So even before the pandemic, we had never met in person. And so then she got a picture of Mike and me. And so that's my family.
And so I imagine a lot of people don't know who I am because this is more of Christy's crowd. And I'm going to share a lot about my background just so you know kind of who we are and what we do. So I was an inclusive special education teacher, K-12. I was a 14-year professor at Syracuse University. And like Christy, I left the university and I'm now CEO of Inclusive Schooling. And that really means that when it's not pandemic time, I travel all over the country, helping people to create more inclusive schools and to learn how to do things more inclusively. And then I've done a bunch of research, and you can see that my research line there. I'm not going to share those with you. The very bottom, I think, is really interesting. I've been spending a lot of time on teacher happiness and thinking about how do we make sure that we increase the happiness level of our educators so they can serve our students better.
And just so you know, Julie, you're getting some love. Brandy are saying, oh no, you're equally an amazing icon in this work. So they know you too.
Thank you, Brandy. At least Brandy, thank you so much. So I want you to know that I have a very cute family. So you have to take a minute to see how cute they are. So those are my kids, Ella and Sam. And then I just got married to Ellen last year. So we've been married now 1 year. And so I just
We haven't told her about us yet.
No, she doesn't know we're common law wise. I'm going to break it to her tonight. I think she'll be fine with it, Christy. I think you bring a lot to the table, so it's going to be fine. Also, I've got a ton of pets. And so I just wanted you to see, someone said they were walking their bulldogs. And so that's our French bulldog. We've got lots of cats. And then this is my pandemic puppy named Maisel, like the marvelous Miss Maisel. And she's fabulous. And she's a puppy. So that's what I'll say about that. Okay. Love it. We want to share our approach with you today. So we would love to be interactive. We're going to offer you many choices throughout. Right now, we're offering you many choices. In fact, you can always have camera on. You can always have camera off. You can always be typing, so you can be interacting the whole time. You can be taking notes some other way, but we really want you to be given many choices. We're going to share lots of tips and tools that you can use immediately. And we'd love it if you kept track of what you're learning. And then Christy, you want to talk about the last two?
Yeah, so we'll go deeper into how to create a comfortable space and how to help your participants create a comfortable space, but you really want to invite folks to think about maybe you just rushed in from another meeting. Maybe your mind is still in another place. Maybe you're not sitting the most comfortable way. Maybe you have the wrong pants on. They're really stand-up pants and now you're seated, right? Not that that's a problem anymore because we don't stand, or wear pants, but that's neither here nor there. So you want to invite folks to say, do I notice if I'm comfortable? Do I notice if I have what I need to be comfortable? Do I need to step aside for a minute and grab a pillow or to grab something to drink? You also can turn on and turn off the closed captioning. We're using a third-party closed captioning, so it's not so it's artificial intelligence, not a real human. So there might be a too long of a delay and it's annoying to you. So feel free to turn it on or turn it off. That's what we mean about being comfortable, using choice. And then we just really want to create a safe space, a place where you can ask any kind of question or share ideas with each other or explore what you're wondering, and just let us know what's working and what we can do to help support you more.
Okay, this is
time
it.
goes so fast.
I know we're going quickly just because I want to make sure that you get everything out of this time with us. This is just our advanced organizer. Obviously, you create a visual of an advanced organizer anytime you're presenting, and we're just kind of making sure that you know what we're talking about. We have 5 big ideas, and then there's a bonus. And so if you're someone who's taking notes, you might even be jotting this down, or you might be taking a screenshot. We're going to talk about opening up your presentation. We're going to talk about being really clear and concise. We're going to talk about how to offer choices. So when we talk about choices, we're going to go much more detail about what those look like. We're going to jump into how to leverage fun and why to leverage fun, and then how to close it up and what that might look like. And then we've got this little bonus. And Christy, do you want to explain that?
Yeah. And Peggy, if you're watching the chat, that was one of my questions too. So that would be helpful if you can let people know. Okay. So today we're showing you things in a Zoom platform, and what we're trying to do also is show you how they would generalize regardless of platform. So we want to show you tips and techniques that aren't specific to Zoom, even though we're showing you in Zoom. And then if you can stay on with us at the end today, we have a bit of a bonus. Julie and I are doing a 4-part series on PD for PD providers. Some of you in this group are already registered and enrolled. We've partnered up with DEC to offer a member discount, and we're going to do some free giveaways. So just to let you know, we have a little bit of bonus at the end. Okay.
For your 5 ideas, we have a suggestion. We would love it if you take your own notes somewhere. So get comfortable. What are you going to use to take your own notes? And you're going to write down each of the 5 ideas as we go. And we really care that you apply the big ideas. So if we share an idea, you should be thinking about how can I apply this in my situation, my setting, my topic, etc. Right? And we have said you can outline or draw or write your notes. Your notes are not being turned in. It's just for you to make sure that you really capture the ideas. Notice we're saying outline, write, or draw, and also any other way you want, because we know you're diverse humans. And we know that all of you have different ways that you really enjoy gathering information and recording that information. How many of you have a favorite writing utensil? If you do, put it in the chat. Mine is a Ticonderoga #2 sharpened. And it's like, it makes my heart really pitter patter when I say those words. Like, that's how much I love it. And so just jot in the chat if you too have a writing utensil that makes your heart go pitter patter. And if you don't understand what we're saying, that's okay too. Some people, it's not their jam. Ooh.
Oh, there's a bunch that do. I told Julie that mine is this favorite called a Uniball Vision Elite. And I bought it because they don't explode on planes, but now I don't have to fly on planes. So there you go.
And sharp.
All right. Perfect.
Okay. Perfect. And then the bottom note here is you can also watch Cheryl as she takes visual notes. So Cheryl Kniesel, we're going to go to you for a second. I'm going to stop sharing and you can quickly explain your plan for today.
And I muted you, Cheryl, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. I am super excited to be here. I have also worked with Julie and Christy a lot, and I'm going to be sharing my drawing. I use an iPad and Apple Pencil, and so let me just get that queued up. So what I do is I listen. I call myself a dedicated listener. I'll be listening and using images and text to draw, and it'll look like this. And I'll capture the big ideas and I'll synthesize and give you some little pictures to hang the information on so that it's easier to connect with what you were hearing. There's tons of great brain science around it, but what we know is that it helps us remember, it keeps learners engaged. Drawing things out really helps students on so many levels scaffold their learning and create meaningful connections.
And so one of the cool things, we can't all be great artists like Cheryl. However, there are folks in our sessions who might be, or maybe you're co-presenting with somebody who can take on that role of note taker, even if that's on a whiteboard. So you might have a screen going where someone's taking notes on, not in the real-time chat, because that can sometimes be too much, but on a whiteboard. And then every so often you switch over from whoever's presenting their PowerPoint over to the whiteboard and see what kind of notes that person has been taking. So when you think about documenting and sharing and engaging, it's not always verbal, but it might be someone else's perception of the key big ideas that they keep track on a whiteboard that's saved for everyone.
Great. Thank you, Cheryl. So we're going to pop back in many times and check in with what Cheryl's doing. And then you're going to get that. I think it's been said, but I want you to know, as a gift for coming, you're going to get that actual poster and it's going to be a downloadable. So you're going to have a really cool set of notes.
And I think it's fun too. If you wrote something, we all three have an affinity for Parker Palmer, who some of you may love as well. And he always invites us to really take notes, not about what someone said, but what it means to us. So we hear something, like we're Cheryl, we're a dedicated listener. What does it mean to me? That's what we take a note on. So if you want to drop in the chat at any time today, what something meant to you or a takeaway, that might spark an idea in another person. So feel free to do that. Okay, keep going, Julie.
No, you guys, this is great. And so this is what our hope is for how you record. And then also you can record in any way you want because we have lots of choice built in for you. So just so you know, Cheryl's website is there too. If you're somebody who ever wants Cheryl to graphic record for you, she's available. So we're jumping into the content. Open it up. How you open up the conference matters a great deal. How you open up your session matters a great deal. How you open up a lesson matters a great deal. And we're going to talk about that next. So our opener for today is called That's Me. And we're going to model an opener for you. And some of you are looking ahead at it and curious about what's happening inside your body, right? So are you like, yes, we're going to do something interactive? Or are you like, actually, I have to use the restroom now, right? Those are the kinds of things that happen in our bodies when we know that we're going to do something sort of interactive. We're going to ask that you participate today just to sort of take, engage at your own risk. So in a minute, Christy's going to read each of these ideas and you're going to jump up and at least raise your hand. You can, if you're someone like me, I have ADHD as an attribute. So I'm someone who, given the option, I would like to do a back handspring every time that I could, right? And so if that's you too, then use this opportunity to literally move your body and jump. Just make sure not to spill the beverage or anything that you've got in front of you.
And if you're like me and you're like mortified by the idea of like jumping and anybody on camera seeing you, you can just be like, or you can do the thumbs up, or you can type in "that's me." So you don't have to be doing a backflip. Okay, you ready? So I'm going to read a statement, and if it's true of you, you're going to yell, "That's me." So if you want to unmute yourselves, y'all, it's kind of fun to hear everybody. So you can just unmute your mics, turn on your cameras if you're brave and want to be. If not, turn it off and keep muted. All right. If you love fall colors, yell,
Me.
That's
me.
okay? If you read a book just for fun,
That's
me.
me.
If you're excited to see a friend in Zoom today,
That's me.
if it's your first time presenting at DEC,
That's me.
That's me.
all right. And if you've been a DEC member for over 10 years,
That's me.
and if you're excited to be here together today,
That's
me.
cool. All right. So that's an example of a way, Jen, I think you said, how do I translate my energy to others? And so having some sort of shared thing, but it's got to be safe. If people feel like it's a little outside of their comfort zone, like for me, it can shut me down. And so you need to be have options available that all are respectful, not like, well, all the cool people will be doing it. And if you're like, not so cool, just turn your camera off. Like, you know.
Yeah, beautiful. And something else really fun that we want you to think about is this is just a warm up, a get to know you, a connector, right? That's all we're using it for. But we also want you to make connections between what you might be teaching, like your content, and then using a "that's me." So I'll use a elementary school example. So you might have kids that have numbers on their back or something, and if you're a prime number, shout "that's me." So you take the concept and put it to your content. Or if you already know what the biopsychosocial model of disability is, shout "that's me," right? So you can change it up to be anything you want. But again, we've got to incorporate more movement when we're in virtual conferences. And it's also fun to take a screenshot while people are jumping because it looks really, really cool.
And you can just think of this as a version of a poll. So if you're an old-fashioned Qualtrics kind of girl or guy, just say, oh, instead of doing Qualtrics or even a Zoom poll, can I get movement, engagement, and show connection all at once?
Beautiful.
Okay.
So that's just our opener for you today. And Christy,
And that's like one of 50 slides, Julie.
Doing great.
Okay, good.
Do you want to describe this, Christy, to get prepared?
I'll do it as quickly as I can, and I'll stop saying I'm doing it as quickly as I can. So in the Zoom chat, I'm putting things, we call this the live agenda. So oftentimes Julie and I co-teach. I highly recommend that when you do your presentation, that you do think about co-teaching, even if you have a partner that just is helping you watch the chat. Even pre-COVID, it's hard to be engaged and watch the chat and get hyperlinks and make sure, right? So you need a co-pilot, you need somebody who can help do the other pieces and parts. This is a Google Drive document where we've given you some top tips about things you might share with folks, either before the conference, before your session, or even when they first come in. And it's just how to prepare their space so they're comfortable, and then how to prepare their Zoom screen. So people often think it's up to the presenter what you see. Nope, it's up to your device and what you do. So Cheryl drew a little infographic on how to set up your Zoom space, how to rename yourself, how to pin a video, how to go from gallery to speaker view. So we put all of those resources in that Google Drive. And then after today, you're going to get another email from us with links to everything. So don't feel like you have to capture anything I put in the live agenda. We'll send it all to you as an email as well. But we want to let you know that we have several tips on how to prepare your space and how to prepare your Zoom screen.
All of this is done because all of this, going back to that's me, and getting people really, really set, because your first job when you open up your conference is to trigger the PEA. So Christy, you want to talk about that?
So the PEA is the positive emotional attractor. And what Julie and I would love for you to do is I describe it, list in the chat any way that we triggered the PEA in you. So the PEA is giving you a positive emotion or a positive feeling or a positive experience. So it's really anything where you felt hopeful or present, or that you felt some sort of compassion or connection and playfulness. So anything from those of you who arrived early and were listening to music to this very moment, what have we done to trigger the PEA in you? The NEA is the opposite. It's anything that made you feel fearful. So go ahead and note that too. Was there something we said, ooh, we're going to do an activity, and did you go, "Grr"? And did anybody feel guilt or shame, like, for whatever reason? That's unfortunately happens all the time because our brains are preset for a negativity bias. You want to go another screen, Julie?
I do. I'm just noticing people's really nice
Okay.
points that they're making. So
Oh, the
everything
cute
from
dogs.
showing our families to our dog pics to the music, but the choices, all those kinds of things are making people feel included. And we very much know and recognize that there will be things that we do or say that won't work for you. And our goal is, how do we keep increasing the PEA and decreasing the NEA, not just to make you feel good, but because it helps you to learn.
And we'll share the chat with y'all too, because I think you guys are coming up with amazing things, from the tone of our voice to color schemes. So it's a good reminder that all of those are under the threshold of our awareness and are really the thing that makes people go, that was a good session, or I feel connected. It's when we trigger the PEA, and you're going to have to do that more often than not, because as Julie said, sometimes you're accidentally doing the NEA, even though you thought you were doing the PEA.
Mm-hmm. Great. Want me to keep going?
Yeah. And so basically our brains, again, are wired to see the negative. And so about 80% of the time, we are having a negative emotion, a negative idea, or a negative soundtrack is playing. Some of us more than other. Julie is probably one of the anomalies. Her soundtrack is like this beautiful PEA. If we could all have her brain, we would be better off. And so we just need to know that it's there, but how can we double up or triple up or quadruple up on the PEA? Okay. And so we really just say 2 to 5 times. So for every NEA experience, you need 2 to 5 PEAs for that NEA. That's a huge ratio. So you got to do a lot of triggering the PEA.
I'm going to ask you in the chat, can you jot down what PEA stands for? Not you, Christy, but anyone who was listening.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
And it's not a John Deere.
It's not. See if anyone can put in the chat, what does the PEA stand for? Beautiful. Yep. You got it. And so that positive emotional attractor is what we're going for as much as possible. And there are so many ways to do that. Some ways are helping people think about an ideal future event or possibility. So to say, we're going to dream about your conference being the best conference, virtually or in person, that it can be. We're really going to ask you to dream about that, because when you dream about that, you can create that. Express compassion by recognizing values, needs, and desires. And so that's another piece where you're really connecting with one another and saying, you know, I see you, I hear you, and I see your needs and desires. Whenever we can build upon people's strengths. So when we gave you the note-taking options and so asked you to think about what choice of pen were you going to use, you were all thinking about your strengths and your interests. Both of those are about the PEA. Do you want to talk about the fourth and fifth one, Christy?
Yeah, so when Julie and I asked you to say, what were you grateful for today? And people were talking about weather and pets and snuggles and so forth. That was also triggering the PEA. So anytime you connect folks to think about what they're grateful for, and then anything that generates a sense of hope, anything that feels like it is achievable. So my friend Perai Trent talks about tinagona, which is, it is achievable. And that anything you can do to trigger hope in folks, without it, this is not about being Pollyanna. This is not about saying that we're not living through a pandemic, but instead of saying, I know it's really tough and things are hard and there's not enough time, it's really saying, I hear you. It's been a struggle and we're in it together and you've been rocking it this week. Those are things that start to trigger the PEA. And I just put in the chat, Julie, the link to our document with activities and strategies to trigger the PEA in yourself and in others across all 5 of those.
Thank you. Beautiful. So the goal of opening it up, your conference session, is to gain attention and to get everybody prepared for the topic of study. Now, depending upon what time you got in this call, we had a bunch of information kind of going across the screen. In a way, we call that stepping stones. So in real life, I used to use stepping stones, even as a conference presenter, where I would have actual footprints on the way into the conference that would help. I would ask questions. So as people were walking in, they were already getting themselves ready for the content. And so Christy and I did that virtually for you. You want to capture interest. You want to evoke the PEA. We want you to generate excitement and promote learning. And a good opener lasts less than 5 minutes, right? So you get the opener and then you're in and you're hooked and you're ready to learn. When I say opener, what does it remind you of? So put it in the chat. What words come to mind when I say opener, when you're thinking about preparing a presentation? What words come to mind? All of these things, from icebreaker to warm up to inclusion activity, to attention getter, to hook, to a concert. Oh, wow, Emily. Think about that. An introduction. Absolutely. That's your opener. And we want you to be as creative as you can for your opener. And so we've got a bunch of cool ideas for you. These are just fun ideas that we've used to open different things. You can start with music, especially music that relates to your content. You can start with a poem, a reading. You can start with virtual stepping stones. A mystery box. So you can have a box in the front and you're pulling out things as you go. So you're just getting people really engaged and interested. I'll just share, you could also do a 30-second commercial or a Voki. Those are other ideas, and I've just picked a few of them to talk about. I think I have an example of the stepping stones. Yeah, so this is when I taught at Syracuse University. This is what stepping stones look like as my students walked into the classroom. So these ones aren't very unique or interesting in that they're just a piece of paper and they're laminated. But what this was the steps in the IEP process, and they were getting ready for an exam on that. And so as they walked in, they were reviewing those steps and making sure that they knew what was coming. Okay, so that's the opener. That's the big first idea. I want to pause for a minute and have people think about your own opener. You can think about your conference presentation or anything else that you have to open soon, any sort of professional development. How do you apply that to your own self?
Julie, can you go back a slide for folks while they're thinking? They want to see that slide back. There you go. And we'll send you the key slides and you can take screenshots. So.
And I just want to say thanks to Maria. It is always okay to do exactly what she did, which is hold up, or could you mind sharing that again? Because Maria is brave enough to do it. It means probably 10 people wished that I didn't pass it, or more than 10.
And what'll be funny about the next thing is we said, be clear and limit your number of ideas. And I'm like, oh, it's 4:33 and we're on idea number 2 of 5.
We're going to be great.
But see, this is what's great because I have the NEA and then Julie's like, we're doing great. It'll be perfect. It's just the right amount. So she triggers the PEA and I go, okay, let's keep going. All right.
Okay, so we promise we'll give you this, but take a screenshot if you want, because I'm going to go off this in 3 seconds. 3. That was me. My tongue makes that noise when I count down. Okay. We talked about stepping stones. Now we're going to talk about clarity. Christy and I had so much fun planning this, and we had such a hard time thinking of just 5 ideas. We wanted to share 20, but one thing that matters is that you decide really carefully how many ideas you're going to have. And here's our recommendation. Well, I'll give it to you in a minute, but it's basically 3 per hour. and it depends on your audience, but we really have a lot of confidence in this audience. So we figured you could handle 5. Then you're going to want to draw a through line, and then you're going to determine your what before your how.
And I think, Julie, what I'll do is skip over these because I've got resources that I can email them about the what before the how. You can talk about this one if you want, and then I'll send them the others.
Okay, that's great. So this is really simple. I'm just telling you the first 2 ideas where decide. Start with 3 big ideas per hour. That's the goal. That's usually what humans can handle, about 3 big ideas per hour. Of course, you might want a few sub points, but essentially people can get their head around it, remember it, and really gain value in 3 ideas. Draw your through line. I literally, and Cheryl is a good friend of mine and she draws all the time. And sometimes I pretend that I'm Cheryl and I draw my visual connection between my opener, my agenda, my big points, my examples, and my closing. And when I draw that out, what I end up doing is getting rid of things that are less important. Christy,
and then I'll send you all this. So some of you know this work already, but it's about how to align your fun stuff with significant learning outcomes. And there's several things that are recorded and several handouts that will make sure that if you want to make sure that you're grounding the fun in significant learning outcomes.
Great. Skip this, Christy?
Yeah, I'll do all that
okay.
Asynchronously.
All right, let's check in with Cheryl. So I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to pop into Cheryl because we want you to look at what has she gathered and also what are you gathering? So I love to put Cheryl right on the spot and say, how are you doing, Cheryl?
Coming.
We're coming for you.
You're awesome, Julie.
And so feel free as well to, if you captured the same thing that Cheryl did, you might put in the chat that was a big idea for you as well. I see people are making requests of things that we can share afterwards. Totally.
One more time. Sorry.
And as Cheryl's doing this, jot one thing you've learned today in the chat, because Cheryl's about to share it with you, things she's learned so far, but what's one thing you've learned today already or gained that you think you're going to use? Just jot it in the chat. Okay, you want to explain anything, Cheryl?
Sure. So much already. What I love is just the opening up as a teacher myself and a visual practitioner, grabbing people and making sure that you're really connecting with them is so important. But more importantly, I think is that whole make it safe because I know I'm a little more like Christy, that I'm not a jump up and dance on the table kind of person. So having that continuum of options for adults as well as students for sure. And then I just capture the positive emotional attractor, the dream and compassion and gratitude, all of those things, you know, are just so important to make sure that you're engaging people from the start, especially when you have limited time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah. And folks are talking about the 3 per hour idea. And what's also important, what Julie's talking about, is there has to be a through line that connects those. So you want to think about at the end, you know, we always say, tell them what you're going to say it, tell them what you said. But the through line is what gets those 3 big ideas, any connective tissue. Why do they go together? Are they of equal weight? Is one bigger than the other? That needs to be kind of clear, but there's some message all the way so that when you drop the mic at the end of your presentation, everybody's like, that, got it, that was it.
And I also want to give you a tip. I have dropped a mic because I've been having like so much fun and I'm like, bam, and the mic breaks and then you have to pay for it. So I'm just telling you that in case you're thinking about doing it, don't do it. All right. Notice one other thing, and this is just silly, but right now you see our faces and not our PowerPoint. And human beings love to see faces because it's the way we're used to communicating. And so make sure whenever you can, turn off that PowerPoint, connect to folks so that they can actually see what you're saying. So think of all the times you can stop sharing your screen. That's a really nice tip. And Christy actually taught me that tip, and I think it's awesome.
And we do try to tell folks too, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to start sharing my screen. It sometimes helps just visually prepare you for that change in what I'm looking at. Julie, why don't you go ahead and go into this a little bit? So we love choice and we want you to think about any way you can give a human a choice. They love to have a choice. So anywhere in your whole session, whether it's a short session or a long session, where can you embed choice? And so Julie's going to give you a couple of specific ways.
I'm going to move off this slide, but if
Yeah.
you want it, I'm going to give you about 5 seconds to capture it if you want. But remember, we're also going to send you all the key slides and it will be on here too. But I'm someone who likes to grab it while I'm thinking. So choice of topic, choice of time, choice of format. And you might wonder, like, how might this look? So one thing we know for sure is you're teaching diverse humans. So one thing we know about anybody teaching anything anywhere. And when we say diverse, we're talking about gender and age and race and culture and religion and socioeconomic status and disability and ability. Those are the things that we're all talking about. And so we're constantly offering choices because choice is the friend of inclusion. Here's an example. We're not actually going to take a break here, but for example, when Christy and I are teaching, we say, we're going to give you 10 minutes. Look at all the options. And then people see, oh my gosh, I could just do a gratitude note. Oh my gosh, I could take a comfort break. I could go outside and feel the fresh air. What we try to do is create as many choices as possible so every diverse human sees something that seems exciting or interesting to them. The other thing
even with the note of gratitude, just right there, we've triggered the PEA again. So these aren't, first I trigger the PEA and then I'm done. Remember, every NEA needs up to 5 PEAs. So you're always thinking, where can I trigger the PEA in this video, in this slide, in this activity? Yep.
So that's an example of choice. We have a few more. When Christy and I are teaching together, we often use these breakout options. And just take a minute. I'm going to be quiet for a full minute and just explore this with your eyes. In the chat, what do you notice about these options? So go ahead and think about, what do you notice about these options that we're providing? I'm reading it just so you know, we're all reading. These are beautiful. Again, you're just honoring what people need. They have options, they have preferences, and we meet people where they are and where they want to be. So this is another example of choice. Christy, do you want to say anything else about the breakout options?
No, we're good.
Okay. Output choice. With a pen or a marker, with friends or alone, with materials given lots of options, with support, without support, with your camera on, with your camera off. A lot of times we're saying, say it out loud or say it in the chat, especially when we're with smaller groups. The other thing we say is you can speak it, whisper it, or shout it with your mute on, right? So we've got people engaging in all sorts of ways while they're muted. And again, that's helping the learning actually stick. Christy, you want to talk about this?
So this is really stemmed from how Julie was working with her students. And we sort of said, okay, how would this look for adults, especially in the different configurations that they might find themselves in, either at home where kids are taking classes, at the office where they can't maybe move around as much. So we just gave you a quick idea, and we stumbled upon this one that's got a hammock under the desk. And I was like, that's perfect, because she always talked about a Michelangelo way of learning. And one of her students said they wanted to record stuff Michelangelo style. And she was like, does that mean we're going to paint on the ceiling? Which of course she would have let them do. And he's like, no, you just get under your desk, tape a piece of paper and write that way. And so this is this idea that not only can you record in different ways, but your body can be in different places. And so we want folks, that's why we always say camera on and camera off, because if anybody wants to do Shavasana, if anybody's got 8 kids they're trying to manage, if anyone's just tired of seeing themselves on the screen, we want you to know that you can still learn, even if you're in a hammock under your desk, which I'm totally ordering that today.
And if you are, you better unmute yourself, because I want to see you in that hammock so bad. It looks so fun, doesn't it? So those are examples. We tell our learners, be comfortable. The beauty of virtual is that people can be really, really comfortable, and they need to be learners. Movement choice. We've got lots and lots of ideas here for movement choice. So walk and talks. Maybe you saw Christy and I did a Facebook Live where we were both on our treadmills doing a Facebook Live. It was really fun. That's me as an example, but you can say, shout, that's me, if you understand the content. If you need another example, shout, that's me, right? So you can just use these movements as ways to get formative assessment going on. Sidewalk chalk, all these kinds of things I do, believe it or not, with adult learners. And that's what makes it sort of outrageous for people, because the fun is a lot higher than in other conference sessions. And people's needs get met, their bodily kinesthetic needs get met. So I want to talk about leveraging fun. And Christy, I'm not going to show the video, but I'm going to tell people where they can get it.
Yep.
If you haven't seen this fun theory video, basically what happens is they take data on who climbs the stairs versus using the escalator. It's a Volkswagen commercial. And as soon as they create this piano and they actually make it work like a piano, most people choose to use the stairs. The harder thing, most people choose, because it's an actual interactive piano. And this is exactly what we want you to be thinking about, is that if you create it to be engaging and fun, most people will be really, really excited to learn alongside you or with you.
I'm putting a link in the chat. And
Okay.
then thanks everybody for adding your ideas. And so like Pam shared some ideas. And so Pam, if there are things you want to send to me and I can send out to everyone, that's cool as well. Or you can just private chat with folks and tell them where they can get stuff. And then again, if you need to leave at any point, just do love you gotta go. And that's the red button, and we'll keep recording and we'll move us along. Julie, I'll put the Zoom makeover link in the chat. We also sent this one ahead of time. Yeah, I can't think and talk, but this is a whole little handout that Julie and I put together about how to give your Zoom room a makeover.
And it came about because Christy turned 50, and then I decided to create 50 ways to make your Zoom room better. And it's actually like 70 now because we've had fun making it.
We have to tell the story. This is what really happened, y'all. Because remember, she has ADHD as an attribute. Okay. So we were working all together all day. And we had like a half an hour, 20 minutes, I think, actually, till we were supposed to go on Facebook Live. And so like we took a break, and like I think I did a bio break and maybe stood up. And I get back and she's like, look what I made you for your birthday, 50 ways to make. I'm like, I just stood up. And she's like, here's 50 ways you can, and it's really 70. And I'm like, okay. And so that it was fun, but there's ways to make over your Zoom that we put the link in the chat too.
Great. Cheryl, do you mind, can we see where you are right now and just show us one more thing you learned? As Cheryl stops in and shows us, put in the link or in the chat one more thing you've learned or one more big idea that you've gained as we've been learning together.
So I love the piano stairs, but I'm going to go back to all the choices, because what I love about these women is that they've taught me so much about how to offer students ways to be so successful and feel loved whenever we work with them. I think one of them, I loved the choice is the friend of inclusion. I've never heard that. Oh my gosh. And then the breakout sessions, I personally participated in one of their conferences, and that was revolutionary. I think for people at the conference this summer was that, wait, I get to choose, you know, because normally you're meeting strangers in these spaces. So I actually get to have some control over that. Not, you know, not maybe what you want, but there's a little piece of control, and that choice makes all the difference for learners, adult and littles.
So we love working with Cheryl, and you can see why. Are you guys blown away by her work? So this is something, again, you're going to get as a free downloadable, and it's going to help you remember everything you learned. We think graphic recording is a friend of inclusion too, because we take too much time and energy on only the written word when many people think like Cheryl does, and this helps many people's brains really process information. Beautiful. Okay, we're kind of hurrying because we're making sure. Christy, should I share my screen and finish?
Yeah, keep going. I'll look at the chat. Oh, thank you, Beth. Yeah, having the best co-teacher ever. If you need Julie, you can hire her for a co-teacher. Like, it's the best ever. Like, when I had to teach by myself, I text her and I'm like, this isn't any fun by myself. I suck by myself.
Plus, there's someone laughing at your jokes. And so, you know, when you're doing it by yourself and no one's laughing,
No laughs.
you're just like crickets. And of course, what happens is your own shark music starts and you start to think, oh man, they don't love it. They don't, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So at least together, we know someone's happy. Here's the closure. The goal of a closure is to wrap up your session. It should be exciting. It should help people review the content. A good closure lasts more than 5 minutes. Nope, less than 5 minutes. Here are some groovy ideas for closing a virtual conference session. I'm going to pick ones that are kind of weird or that you might not know. Okay, 3, 2, 1 blast off. That's the third one down. That's essentially 3 big ideas you learned, 2 questions you still have, and 1 thing you're going to do today. You just change it up, whatever your intro is. It's just 3, 2, 1, then they blast out of there, and then they've sort of put their learning together. Where do you stand is a real easy one. Where are you feeling now? And you ask people to rate themselves. You can do fists to 5 in a virtual space. So are you a 5 right now, a 4, a 3, a 2, a 1, about your comfort level, about your excitement level? You could do all kinds of things like that. A bumper sticker is another cool one. So if you were to create a bumper sticker about our time together today, what would the phrase be and what would you put on it and let people create one? And those are just some examples. Okay, I'm going to move this one, and I know you guys are going to want it. So first, I promise it'll come to you, but second, I'll give you 5 more seconds if you want to capture it. Okay. Christy, want a review for them?
Sure. And if you'll look at the chat, Lynn, yours keep coming just to me, but she wanted to know what Boki was. And then there were some other questions, and just know we'll answer them, and others can answer that question. So we had 5 big ideas. And so what's going to happen next, I'm going to review the 5. I'm going to remind you that we have still a little bonus thing to do. And then we're going to do your closure. We're going to do your exit ticket, knowing that the recording will be sent to you. The key PowerPoints will be sent to you. Your questions that haven't been answered are in the chat, and we'll find a way to answer them. So we really want you to think about, how do I open our time together? How do I create a space where people know what to expect and know what's going to be happening, and that they're going to be safe, seen, soothed, and secure? You want to be really clear about what you're going to cover. Keep in mind that maybe 3 big ideas is about all that you can cover if you have about an hour's worth of time. If you have a bunch of newbies or the content's really deep, you might need to scale it back in some way, but always think about that through line. Offer choices all the time. Not only are those choices triggering the positive emotional attractor, but they're really helping humans connect, or what Julie calls access points. How do folks access your content and materials? And it's not just whether we have signed interpreters or closed captioning or a graphic recording, but it's really this idea that I can access it because I have it shut down, or I'm not too confused, or I'm not too hyper aroused. And then you really think about, where can you have fun? Who said that Zoom meetings have to be boring? Who said that even research has to be boring? I mean, both Julie and I are recovering academics, and hopefully you had a little bit of fun with us tonight. And if you want to know all the research behind it, we can give you all the citations and all of the research, but we can also just spend the time that we're together really engaged in fun. And then when we close it up, be thinking about, how do I revisit those big ideas? How do I check for understanding along the way or at the end? And then how do people know that they can leave? So we've already told you a couple of times that you can leave anytime you need to. It's not rude, and it's okay. And we also have a little exit activity that we're going to do just to model it. So you're going to need a piece of paper. Or if you've got a blank thing on your screen on your phone, that'll work as well. For those of you who had your favorite pen, grab your favorite pen, a piece of paper, or open up something blank on your smartphone. And then we're going to do a little telling you more about how you can keep learning with us. And then we're going to give away some things if you can stay around. If you can't, no worries. Okay, Julie, we're ready.
Okay,
Here's
so
our exit ticket.
our exit ticket is called In a Word. It's one of my favorite closures because it makes everybody think of one thing, right? So on a single piece of paper, write one word that comes to mind when you think of our time together today, and then you're going to hold it up to the camera, okay? So I'm going to write my word. And you might want to write it kind of dark so people can see it. I'm writing in a big fat marker, but you can write with whatever you want.
And so we're supposed to write on a piece of paper any word that comes to mind, a feeling, a concept, a weird word like Voki, like anything that's in your mind. And then Julie's gonna tell us what to do with it. And she's gonna stop sharing her screen.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I'm gonna hold up my word. And then everybody holds up your word and tries to get it so we can see it. Christy, teach them how to do the view called gallery view if they don't know. Woo!
So if you can do your top right hand corner, if you're on a computer, do gallery view and you'll see all these amazing humans. You can even scroll to the right. There's 5 pages of amazing humans holding up signs. So be sure to scroll and we'll capture. I'm going through the scrolling now, so we'll have it on video and people can see it. Oh, I see creativity, energy, applicable. What else do you guys see?
Creative and
Valued.
Scene. Emily, I like your scene. Applicable,
Beautiful.
choice, doable.
All right, you can also drop those words in the chat. That's how we're going to pick the winners. So if you've got a word, drop it in the chat. And we're going to now let you go if you need to go. If you want to learn a little bit about an offering that Julie and I have for PD providers about how to do virtual PD well, we have a 4-part series coming up in November that we'd love you to join. And as a DEC member, you can get a discount and we're going to give 2 seats away for free. So that's all. But
so we're going to
go, Peggy, anything you want to say before we transition?
And we're only going to take 5 minutes in case you're curious, how long would you be staying? Peggy, anything?
Nope, just thank you. So don't take up the time and good luck.
Okay, thanks, Peggy. Thank you, executive office folks. And thanks for everybody who was able to come and who can stay. That's great too. And if not, you can listen back at your leisure. We'll be in touch. Okay, so here we go. If you want more, of not only these 5 things we covered today, but lots of different things about how do we teach virtually well, from staff meetings to doing entire conferences. Julie and I are doing a series, 4 sessions in November, where we're going to spend 75 minutes, hopefully a little more focused. I don't know, probably not, probably just a lot like this. And give you everything we can about how to design engaging PD, how to discover to be wildly effective, how to really use technology or web-based technologies innovatively, not just use technology for technology's sake, but in this social age, how to use it as that connective tissue. And then Julie says, how to deliver PD like a boss.
But don't do the mic drop. Okay. There's a member discount opportunity. It's 10% off, which makes the member rate $314 per seat. And you might be like, well, wait, who's it for? It's for professors, instructors, technical assistance providers, teaching assistants, PD providers, administrators, anyone on the bottom who wants to design and deliver more inclusive and effective virtual instruction. That's who it's for.
We're really going to be talking to you all that are teaching adults and having conferences and having webinars and delivering professional development and technical assistance throughout your states and your countries. But Julie reminded me the other day that, really pre-K 12 teachers are also really doing this virtual work right now. And especially for those of us that are working with young children and their families, we are working with the adults because we're doing home visiting, or we're working to help families support their children. Maybe you're working with paraprofessionals who are then working with students. So even though we're going to be really talking to those of you who do technical assistance or faculty or your graduate assistants, we really wanted to say that pre-K-12 teachers would be welcome as well.
Yep.
Okay, so how to do it?
Yeah, how do you grab your spot? So it's filling up pretty quickly. And we haven't done our Facebook Live yet. So I imagine as soon as we do our Facebook Live, it'll be like gone. But if you want to grab your spot, I think we're doing our Facebook Live this week, maybe Thursday. You go there. These are the discount codes. So if it's just one person or a couple people, you get to put DEC10 as your coupon code. That's a 10% off. And if you have 10 or more people, you could put DEC15 to get the whole thing for a 15% off, just so you know. And now we're going to give it away. So we're going to give away 2 free seats. So to make sure that people want a seat, I think this would be good right now is you can put your word or a phrase or pick me or anything in the, so that I know after Emily, we're going to basically, yeah, go ahead now. That means like, I really do want a seat. So we're not giving it away to someone who doesn't. Okay, perfect.
There you go. Pick me. Love it, Kim.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, good, good, good.
All right, Candace.
So we're going to do our fabulous, do you want me to pick him, Christy?
Yeah, go ahead. You do one, I'll do one.
Okay, I'm going to close my eyes. This is very, very,
Very technical, y'all. We know all kinds of things about ways to pick it, but we like to scroll in the dark and then find a person's name.
Okay, Emily Ropers, Illinois.
Oh, Emily.
Oh, there you are.
That was, somebody's going to think that was rigged.
It wasn't.
I
Okay,
can't believe it. I put out the scene by. I emailed Anne, my project director, and I was like, okay, we have to go. It's all about online. I don't care if we've done something like this before. We got to go.
yeah, just like anything else. Okay, Christy, let's do 3 giveaways because these people are so fabulous. Do you mind doing 2 more?
No, I don't mind.
This is
Goodness.
my hair at this point of the
These
night.
are my favorite people in the world.
I know.
Okay, I'm going to do one. And so I just scroll because that way I don't know if I'm at top or bottom, and I stop and then I just see where my cursor lands. And it's on Jory. Jory, is it? Jory Novak? I don't think I know you, Jory.
Yes, that is me. Hi.
Hi.
I'm
Where
a
are you,
PD.
Jory?
I'm good. I'm in Michigan.
Oh, I'm
And
Michigander. Okay.
I work for the state as a PD consultant for early intervention.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
I got to write this down because I'm going to forget Jory. So
Yeah.
Jory and Emily. Okay, Julie, you do one more.
Okay. The other thing, Jory and Emily just email Christy if she doesn't get it back to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lindsay Diamond.
All right, Ms. Lindsay, are you still here?
Woohoo! I'm here. Thank you.
And where are you from, Lindsay?
University of Nevada, Reno. I'm an assistant professor.
Excellent, excellent. So you're friends with Jenna.
Thank you.
Yay, the great
Yes,
state
it's
of
a pleasure to meet you.
Nevada. Okay, Lindsay, I got you.
Okay.
All right, that's a wrap, y'all.
Look at that, Christy. 501. Bam. We will stay on, and you are welcome to unmute yourself and ask any questions. Although, Christy,
You
I
have to go. I'll stay.
but I could do 5 minutes.
Okay.
But I might be texting to figure out where I go for my next presentation.
Yeah, so just hit the red button. Love you, gotta go. Just know that we'll email you the recording, the key PowerPoint, all the links, Cheryl's drawing. Oh, Cheryl, why don't we see yours as the ending as people are jumping off? Yeah, gotta go. Love you guys. Yep. And if you have a question, stay or write your question in the chat. It'll be recorded and I can come back to it.
Can we ask questions now live?
Yeah, please. Hi, David. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in professional development for parents now that are actually doing a lot of homeschooling. Specifically, I have a program called Sing and Speak for Kids, an online program to help kids with disabilities and dual language learners to learn through song. And so the parents are the ones that really are playing the game with the kids and this joint media engagement, all that. And so it's similar to everything you presented, but I'm just curious if you have any references or if you yourselves have worked with parents in the different kinds of conditions. They're not professionals. And what else do we need for them? I know PEA applies to everybody.
Right. Yeah. So Julie, do you want to go first? So if you have to jump off, and Cheryl, if you have to jump off, you can go second, and then David, I'll go third.
All I want to say is thank you, Cheryl, for being such an incredible human and doing this for us today. I want people to know that you should and can contact Cheryl if you're interested in having her graphically record something virtually or live, because it's a game changer for your participants.
Okay. Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah. So David, you caught on to part of it already, and that's like they're humans. So Julie and I have been really trying to think about what is universal so that we don't get caught up in how old are you and so forth. So what I would say to add for families in particular, but this is really for educators as well, that they have to be in the zone of optimal learning in order to hear it. So sometimes we might need to do things that make them feel what we call the 4 S's of attachment science. Do they feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure? So you might want to think about what are the stressors that are impacting them. So you might invite them to turn off things so that there's less bombardment. Anything they can do to feel ready. And you might just need to spend more time than the 5 minutes really making sure that you've brought them into the zone of optimal learning. And I'll put some notes in that, David. I'll send you some things about the 4 S's and how you can do that for adults. But that's been the thing that I've noticed with families. They're wearing so many hats right now that the idea of figuring out the technology and having to perform. Let's say I'm a parent that has post-traumatic stress disorder and I already have trouble connecting with my child. And now you want me to sing and dance?
Right.
I don't really know what you ask them to do, but that can cause me. So you might think about how do you take your curriculum and give multiple access points for different families that have different styles?
Yeah, no, it's really useful to hear that. And you're right. It's even more stressful for somebody who's not trained as a professional like all of us on this call. And we're just bumping up our game. For them, they're like an overwhelm sometimes.
Absolutely.
Often, you know. So
And I would invite you to use a family member as a co-teacher. So someone that you may also be a parent or a grandparent or a guardian. However, sometimes the parent can speak to the realities while you're having your teacher hat on and explaining the curriculum. The parent can talk about what they would be afraid of or what they struggled and how they overcame it.
that is perfect. Yeah, and we do have somebody on our team who's like that.
Okay.
And they're really great at it.
And then the breakout rooms will be your friend. That's where families can get together and say, this is what I'm facing. I have an 8-year-old on the spectrum and 3-year-old with Down syndrome, and I have no time for myself. And I feel so much mom guilt that I don't have time to sing songs with my kids.
Right.
Then people go, okay, I have mom guilt too, and I have dad guilt, and I have grandma guilt. Okay, how do we let the guilt go and no shoulda, woulda, coulda, and just say, how do you give them permission slips? And how do you say, even if you do this one time for 3 minutes, it's good enough. Those kind of things they'll need to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for those tips. I really resonate.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question, concern, thought, idea? You can unmute yourself and just chat.
Thanks again. I'm excited. I was just going to make the ask to my division director to say, can I spend the money this way? So that saved me an email, but I'm super excited. So I'll see you guys in a few weeks.
Good.
Great.
Thanks, Lindsay. We're glad.
Excited.
All right. I think we're just, Alicia, do you have anything for us?
No, I'm not really sure what's happening right now.
Yeah. Did you have the time zone different?
I'm realizing that I wrote down 4 o'clock and I'm guessing this is an Eastern time thing,
It is,
right?
because we're Eastern egocentric. But guess what? You won just for showing up. I'm going to give Alicia a spot. She has no idea what she just won, but we're going to
No,
give
I
it to you.
don't. And I'm not sure today's the day that you want to just give me something. It's parent teacher conference day and I'm still working my home visits and birth
Yeah.
to 3 in between it all. So,
You're gonna love it, Alicia. And
okay, I believe you.
And
but
you don't
my
have to
edit-
even look at it until like next week.
yeah.
Okay, awesome.
And you can go have a drink of your choice right now. Don't tell anybody on your home visit I said that.
No, this was like, I just finished IFSP and I was like, click, and